This video is indeed rated B for you'd better back on out of here if you don't want spoilers, buddy. Within the story of Dawntrails, we're introduced to a variety of new places and characters during our time with the MSQ. But few have been the focus of conversation as much as the Endless toward the end of the game, which coincidentally makes Sphene a hot topic as well. But what are the Endless, and who is Sphene? Is she really just the leader of Alexandria and its caretaker? Or is she something much more, something that Dawntrails' story plans on coming back to at a later date? Gather around, my friends, as today we'll be discussing the fate of Alexandria's last queen and the mystery surrounding her existence. To understand our discussion on Sphene is to discuss what the Endless are. The Endless, as explained within the base story of Dawntrails, are living memories. No pun intended. But when I say alive, I don't mean in the traditional sense. In fact, few within the universe of FinalFantasy XIV would ever call the Endless truly alive in the first place. So what do I mean by this? Well, ether is an extremely potent and versatile energy source with many mysteries surrounding it to this day. It is a tremendous source of power, form, and of course, life. We can define ether in a variety of ways, but the one we're focusing on at the moment is memory. And memory makes up one of the three types of ether that make up a true living thing: memory, material, and soul. In our own terms, we could essentially call them the mind, body, and spirit. Material ether makes up your physical body, from your hair and hands all the way down to your blood and bones. These things follow the rules of genetics, physics, and so on and so forth, having everything to do with the material world. And yes, even most magic, like throwing fireballs, is still considered a type of material ether. This is the type of ether that most people will interact with their entire life, with only a select few ever getting the chance to even notice, much less engage, with the other two. Next is soul, and this type of ether is rather self-explanatory. Souls are strange within the world of FinalFantasy XIV, as they don't seem to follow any one specific trend or design. And many characters within the story will be quick to remind you that research into spiritual ether is still ongoing, and technically has been for thousands of years. The true power and nature of souls is quite the mystery. At some point at the start of something's life, they gain a soul. While a material body might be able to live and act on its own, without a soul, it's simply a husk, an entity existing only on either wild instinct or basic commands. It's the soul that ultimately grants a person their sense of self, their individuality, and will. A good example of this is when the Scions of the Seventh Dawn were pulled to the first reflection by the Crystal Exarch. Their souls were dragged across the barrier between realms, and without a soul, their bodies had no will, like a puppet having lost its strings. Which finally brings us to the important topic of today's discussion: memory. What is memory ether? In the simplest of terms, memories are impressions left upon a soul during the events of its life. Some memories are good and pleasant, while others are twisted and harrowing. Within the world of FinalFantasy XIV, your soul might provide your nature, but it's your memories that will define your nurture. However, when someone passes on and their soul returns to the ethereal realm, the core of their planet, their memories are cleansed, ultimately leaving the soul purified for its next life. A single soul can live seemingly forever, but memory is fleeting and will disappear without something to anchor them. But why are memories so weak and easily removed? In all honesty, I don't really know. Memory and soul ether are still relatively new within the lore, but based on everything we've seen, memory-based ether is the most ephemeral. Memories are finicky, and how you remember something is rarely the exact way that it happened. Some memories can even be forged or fabricated, being entirely false. After someone on the star passes on, their physical body will eventually turn into other types of material ether, and their soul will persist beyond death to return one day in a process called reincarnation. Both of these types of ether endure to some degree, but without something to sustain them, like being imprinted upon a soul crystal, memories will eventually vanish like mist upon the wind. Sure, some memories are so profound that they are emblazoned or scarred upon the soul in question, but that's rare and almost never happens. In fact, the only solid example we have of this happening is when the ancients suffered the horrors of the final days, burning those memories upon their very spirits. Without something to support them, memories eventually become nothing. And that is all the Endless truly are. Memories. The ideas of people that once existed, now sustained by other, more powerful types of ether. It's the same reason that arcane entities aren't considered entirely alive. Sure, your carbuncle might look and act like a living thing, but no one cries when it disappears or when it's defeated in combat. In fact, there's nothing stopping you from simply creating another one. Within the universe of Final Fantasy XIV, the presence of a soul is ultimately what defines something as alive, which is why the Endless are technically not living. Without their original souls, the Endless are simply memories being sustained artificially. Soul power might be the energy keeping their memories sustained, but it doesn't mean that they suddenly have a new soul. In fact, it's more accurate to say that these souls are being treated as an energy source rather than a living thing. The Endless aren't gaining a new soul, they're gaining what's essentially a new battery. In reality, the Endless will never truly be alive ever again, because everything that made that person who they were originally is just a memory, making the truth behind their system rather harrowing, as the only method Alexandria is able to sustain the memories of long-dead individuals is with the souls of living people. And even some Endless, upon learning the truth of their existence, reject the idea of persisting at the expense of others. To say that the rest of the world would find Alexandria's treatment of souls unethical is a drastic understatement. After all, necromancy is expressly forbidden in most countries because of how this spell school often torments and bends souls to the user's will. Alexandria does something similar, as living souls have no choice but to feed their flawed system. But why is it so fundamentally flawed? Because a soul might live forever, but it was never meant to possess all its memories from one life to the next. If you hoard memory ether, eventually the amount of memories will quickly outnumber the amount of souls available to sustain them. Put simply, Alexandria's system could never work in the manner it was originally intended. Supply would never be able to meet demand, because memory ether was never meant to exist this long. But now that we've discussed the truth behind the Endless, where does that leave Sphene? After all, she is the queen of the Endless and is considered to be their caretaker. So doesn't that mean she's simply a sustained memory as well? That's certainly how she is presented, but I would posit it's much more complicated than that. Sphene is completely different. First, let us address how she was never just the memories of a long-deceased monarch. Sphene's memories were used in tandem with artificial systems in order to create something that is part memory and part machine. Unlike the rest of the Endless, who were simply allowed to exist in their simulated reality, Sphene was never to have it that easy, as her programming would ultimately compel her to do whatever it takes to protect the memories of the Endless and collect more souls to power their systems. Unfortunately, she was always of two minds, her mechanical programming and the memories of someone long gone. In fact, we see the memories of Sphene reject or even rebel against her programming on a couple occasions, suggesting that the person Sphene was would never have desired some of the actions her programming pushed her to perform. It's entirely possible that she was in a near constant state of torment because of this. Always feeling compelled or forced to do things that she never thought or felt when she was once alive. I would never envy such an existence, because at that point, she's no longer entirely herself. In fact, from the very beginning, Sphene was a liar. When the party questions how Alexandria was able to arrive on the source, she feigns ignorance, when in reality, she knew exactly how and why it happened. In fact, she was determined to keep the process going in order to truly invade the source. Every time Sphene recites how death is not the end, again, she's lying, because to pass on within Alexandria is arguably worse than the end. It's guaranteed servitude of your very soul. The thing helping to make you who you are is forced to work as fuel and batteries for the Endless and other people. To pass on within Alexandria is likely to never be reincarnated ever again. One of the few times Sphene told the truth was when she insisted upon her duties to the Endless and Alexandria. It was her job to protect them and keep their self-contained society going for as long as possible. And she would tell any lie to make that happen, even lie to her people in order to keep them happy. After all, as they say, ignorance is bliss. Far simpler to call a memory alive than admit that the soul that once held those memories was now being enslaved by an artificial system. It would be easy to say that's all Sphene ever was, memories being piloted by a computer's subroutines. But that doesn't seem to be all she was, not really. And the reason for this all ties back to the fact that she had a resonator. But why does that matter? Well, resonators work by storing and using the souls of living people and animals to achieve different effects, as seen within the MSQ. But isn't it curious how none of the Endless within living memory had a resonator? Indeed, since the Endless are soulless memories, they don't need resonators. They had no soul to move around, thus no resonator was required. So if Sphene was truly an Endless, she wouldn't need a resonator, would she? If the Endless are just memories, and memories don't require a resonator, then why does she have one? Which brings me to my current question, my friends. Is the resonator evidence of a grander design, or is it just another lie to mask her true nature? I believe that if her resonator does work as intended, it suggests that Sphene, unlike most Endless, is more than just a memory. Perhaps when the original Queen Sphene passed on all those centuries ago, they managed to contain her soul as well. Or perhaps the resonator was more of a decoration, something to fool her subjects into thinking she was just like them, and give them no reason to question her existence. To that end, I pose the question to you. Tell me, what do you think Sphene is? Was she truly a collection of programmed memories? Or is there something deeper we're meant to learn in the future? Either way, I look forward to reading your comments down below as we wait for future patches to Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. As always, I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. And until that day comes, stay safe, my friends. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoy my content, it would mean the world to me if I had earned you as a subscriber. We are currently on the road to 50k, and I'd love to have you as part of that journey. I'd also like to take this time to thank my amazing Patreon supporters. Nanima, Amina Viltaria, Slippers, Azkan Hawk, Naria O'Meara, Potato, Seth Rosewood, and Sinalv Bagel. Your support has always meant so much to me and helps to keep the content flowing with ease. If you're interested, there are additional links down in the description to my Discord, X, and other things as well. But until I see you again, I hope you're having an amazing day. Class dismissed.